Hi, my name is Rebecca Hansen, and I am the Assistant Director of International Admissions at Northern Kentucky University. I have been recruiting international students for about 10 years, and one of the biggest parts of my job is travel. I travel a lot. I've been to about 50 countries, most of them for my job, actually. It's amazing how much I get to travel. I absolutely love going to different countries, but the one thing that I always have to keep in mind is that every day is going to be a little different. It's predictably unpredictable is something that I find myself saying a lot. I'm always somewhere different, doing something unique, so I'm constantly having to adjust to that. One example is I could be in Sao Paulo, Brazil, attending a university fair where I'm standing for hours on end and talking to a whole bunch of students about Northern Kentucky University and our educational options. Or I could be in Kathmandu, Nepal, where I like to meet with the vice consul at the Kathmandu embassy and talk about the student visa process and making sure that we are serving our students to the best of our ability. You can imagine that's a situation where I have to dress very nicely. Another situation I find myself in sometimes is something like what I did in Doha, Qatar recently, where I got to go and sit with the parents of a couple of our current students at NKU and have dinner with them. It was casual but still nice. It was really an enjoyable evening. Or one of my favorite things that I get to do is like something I did in Hanoi, Vietnam recently, well, pre-pandemic recently, where I got to host an admitted student dinner for newly admitted students to NKU, answer their questions about the school, and really get them pumped for becoming part of Norse Nation. So, as I said, predictably unpredictable. There's always something going on that I don't expect. So, I think one thing that definitely comes to mind, an example of the things that I don't expect, is one time in Yangon, Myanmar. I think it was October 2017. It was fall 2017. And I was at a high school fair. So, one of those events where I'm on my feet all day long. It is kind of brutal, but also kind of fun, where you're talking to a whole bunch of students who are coming to your table, but really it's just a lot of standing. So at this particular event, it was at a high school. And when the event ended, it was right when the school day ended. So it was a bit of chaos out at the front. There were a lot of buses, a lot of cars, parents coming to pick up students. And my colleagues and I had arranged for a ride back to our hotel, but he wasn't anywhere in sight. We finally got a message from him saying that he was about 4 blocks away and he was not going to be able to come close to the school anytime soon. So we had to walk the 4 blocks to him. By the way, October is monsoon season in Yangon. So it had just started raining, and we had to walk those 4 blocks to his car and looked like drowned rats by the time we got to him. But he was able to get us to our hotel, and we were able to go on with our trip after that. So, as you can see, when I travel, I have a lot of business needs, a lot of things that I'm thinking about, and I'm constantly having to balance all of these needs at once. So, I have to make sure that I'm always looking presentable. If the pink hair is any indication, I like to look cute. So, I want to make sure that I am presenting myself well as a representative of Northern Kentucky University, and I want to make sure that I'm dressing appropriately for the occasion. I also have to keep in mind that I have very little room in my luggage. I have to pack as lightweight as possible. And part of that is that sometimes if I'm traveling within countries, like somewhere like Vietnam or in India, they're very, very particular about the amount that you are allowed to carry on in your actual carry on or even check in. And if you're just 1 kg, just 1 kilogram over, they will charge you through the nose for that 1 kg. I have definitely dumped things at airports to avoid paying $100 in overweight charges. The other thing that I have to think about is that I have very little time to get ready and I have a very quick turnaround time. Sometimes I'm in countries for as little as 24 or 36 hours. So sometimes those bizarre situations that happen are also things that I have to think about, whether it's mud or monsoon. I have to make sure that I'm pivoting as I'm also getting ready to go to the next country and also making sure that I'm dressed well. So lots of stuff to balance, right? The other thing that I'm also thinking about constantly is sustainability while traveling. It's really, really difficult to maintain a good routine while you're traveling. And so I mean, I want to stay hydrated. I want to stay as healthy as possible, but that means using a lot of one-use plastics. And, it weighs on your mind, especially when you hear things that the National Geographic recently put out that half of plastics ever manufactured were created in the last 15 years. That right now we're creating about 448 million tons of plastics every year, and it's expected to double by 2050. That 8 million tons per year from coastal nations are being dumped into our oceans per year. And that the additives that make the plastic stronger actually mean that they are not going to actually break down for 400 years or more in the ocean. So, yes, every time I have to use a single use plastic bottle because I'm somewhere that I can't drink the water, it does weigh on me a little bit. So, you might be asking, what does looking presentable, needing to be lightweight with my luggage, having little time to get ready, being in bizarre situations, and plastic water bottles all have in common? Well, Rothy's. These shoes, honestly, it sounds bizarre, but these are my favorite shoes. Let me tell you why. They're durable. They are incredibly durable. This pair right here, I got actually right before that trip to Yangon. I've had these since summer of 2017. I have worn them so many times. They have been to at least 30 countries with me, and you know what? They still look just as new. They are washable. These shoes that I just showed you, well, when I got back from that trip in the cab ride and I was looking like a drowned rat, and I was at my hotel room, I had to get up the next day at about 5 in the morning to travel on to the next country. And my shoes looked gross because of the leaves and the dirt and everything that was going on, right? Walking for 4 blocks in a monsoon, you're not going to look pretty afterward. So, what did I do? I grabbed those shoes. I put soap on them. I washed them inside of the bathtub, hung them to dry, and then the next morning, when I got up to get ready to grab a quick breakfast and meander on to the airport and hurry on to my next country, the shoes were dry and ready to be packed and looking just as good as ever. So they're also incredibly comfortable, and that's something that matters so much to me. I mentioned that I've been recruiting since about 2012, so about a decade, almost. And I have gone through so many pairs of shoes. I cannot even tell you. For a single pair of shoes to last me a whole travel season is rare. And yet, as I showed you, these I've had since 2017. So they are incredibly comfortable, and I can stand for several hours at a big university event with these shoes on and not feel incredibly uncomfortable. You have no idea how hard it is to find a pair of shoes that meets all of those criteria. And then finally, they're sustainable. This upper portion right here, this is it's knit from a thread that is spun from plastic water bottles. How cool is that? You wouldn't expect it to be that comfortable, but it is legit that comfortable. And do you know that Rothy's has actually transformed over 200,000 pounds of one-use plastics, taken them before they hit the oceans, transformed them to these gorgeous shoes. Come on, how cute are these? They come in many styles, in many different patterns. They're lightweight, they're made of water bottles. And you know what? They're just so fun to have. And yeah, you counted right. I have 4 pairs of these shoes, and we'll probably be buying a fifth for myself later this summer. So, now what can you do? Easy. Buy a pair of Rothy's. Seriously. They have Rothy's for women, of course. Hi. They have Rothy's for kids. They have Rothy's for men. They also have all kinds of really cute accessories, handbags, things that you can buy on Rothy's. They have discounts for teachers and education professionals. I got one because I work at NKU. And you know what? If you don't meet any of those criteria and you still want a discount, you can use my code because then it'll give you $20 off and me $20 off. And in my book, that's just a win-win. So, when are you going to buy a pair of Rothy's?